Hey, Steve here again, and I want to talk about a question that I get asked a lot, and that is why we go where we go. Why do we serve in the places we serve? Why do we serve from the Far East to the Middle East, which is geographically where our ministry is really based in? And to answer that question, I want to talk about who we serve, because where we serve isn't as important as who we serve. Okay, the people we serve are those who lack gospel access or adequate access to the gospel, and we often refer to them in our communications as those who are considered gospel deprived. Unlike where I live, where there's one church for every 500 residents in our county, I would not consider where I live as gospel deprived by any stretch of the imagination. So we want to get to those places where people are lacking those access, where people can go their whole lives and never hear the gospel because they've never met one Christian. Those are the people we really want to get to. And it all started 24 years ago when I went to China initially. And halfway through my time there, I met this guy named John. Now, John was older than me. He was well educated. A few days after I met him, they were relocating to Canada for working. This was the first time I'd met John. I never knew him before this conversation, and I never saw him again afterwards. The conversation really, we had a whole group of people around us, and we actually had a plan for why we were meeting. But the good news is we got to have a good conversation with him and several other people. And at the end of that conversation, I learned that John had never been introduced. No one has ever introduced Christ to him, the Bible, the gospel, Christianity as a whole. He had never heard of any of it. This was the first time to hear anything about Christ. And while he did not accept it, and he gave me reasons why he was rejecting it, which really had to do with fear of what his family would do or his employer would do. But in the end, he still said, "This is the message my people need." And then he gave me a warning to be careful as I was there telling people about Christ. And despite the fact that John rejected Christ, at least in that moment, I don't know what happened to him afterwards, that conversation changed everything for me. Because I had heard about people like John for the previous year, from starting in 1999. I had heard about people who didn't have access to the gospel, who had never seen or heard a Bible, Christians who were lacking Bibles. I had heard about these people, but had never met anyone like them. But in that moment, I realized everything I had read about that previous year was sitting right in front of me, having a conversation with me. And I knew in that moment that when I got back to the States, even though my plan was to go back and just get back into ministry, back into life as normal, when I got back home, I knew in that moment I couldn't do that. I gave my life to finding the Johns of this world. Why? Because I care deeply about them. Because God deserves to be worshiped by every nation, tribe, and language. Jesus, as John 14:6 says, he is the only way. There is no other way. And because I believe that so strongly, I've got to do everything I can to ensure that people like John get the access they need so they have the opportunity to hear and respond to the gospel. Now, the good news is, for those who are not involved or who are not designed and called to be involved like I am or my colleagues are on the field, the reality is we can't do it without people who are designed to stay behind, to stay at home, to lower us down with the ropes, and to send us. And that's where our vision partners come into play. They are designed to be part of this ministry, even though they're not designed to be on the field. But they are an equal part of this ministry. And together we are working together through our going and their giving and praying to deliver the gospel where it's not, to ensure that every man, woman, and child has access to the greatest message of all time, one that I have been given access to my entire life, so they have the chance to hear about Christ, believe in Christ, follow Christ, and spend eternity with Christ just like I get to do. I'll see you next time.